I've been sucked into a novel, and now I'm the despised, live-in husband of a Manhattan heiress. The moment I opened my eyes, my ice queen wife, Catherine, slapped a stack of divorce papers on the nightstand. Sign them. Then get the hell out of my house. The one that got away is coming back from Europe, she said, her voice dripping with contempt. You don't deserve to have my name any longer. I was about to ask for a generous settlement and disappear, but she just laughed. A worthless parasite like you won't see a single dime. That's when I got angry. There are two sacred rules in my book. You don't mess with my family, and you don't mess with my money. I don't have any family. So, I did a little digging and found her old Flames flight information. At the arrivals gate at JFK, I held up a giant, obnoxious banner. Welcome home, my beloved Julian. Pedicures are on me tonight. Before he could process what was happening, I dragged the bewildered-looking musician into the tackiest 24-hour strip mall spa in Queens. Then I snapped a picture of him, looking utterly lost with his feet soaking in a bubbling tub of green water, and sent it to my wife. Picked up your boy for you. He says the massage technique is decent, but the water's a little hot. A second later, my phone rang. Her voice was shaking. You lay one finger on him, and I swear to God. One. The static on the line couldn't hide the fury in Catherine Davenport's voice. Now, where are you? I held the phone away from my ear and picked at a loose thread on the vinyl couch. Relax, Kat. Don't have a meltdown. I leaned back, watching Julian across the room. The hands that had likely graced the keys of a Steinway were now clumsily trying to unfold a disposable towel. The technician says Julian is under a lot of stress. Too much heat in the liver, apparently. She recommended their deluxe package, the whole 9 yards. I've already charged it to your supplementary Amex. $1,800. I even got you a 10% discount. See? I take care of things. The line went dead silent. Even the sound of her breathing vanished. I figured she probably just had a rage-induced aneurysm. Satisfied, I hung up. Buddy, you gotta try the lobster special, I said, enthusiastically sliding a laminated, food-stained menu across the table to Julian. He stared blankly at the words Royal Lobster Experience, imitation crab and seafood, stick medley. This is lobster. Of course. It's a specialty of the house. It's all about the vibe. I gave him a look, a conspiratorial nod. He seemed to actually get it, a flicker of genuine curiosity in his eyes. I've never experienced anything like this in Europe. Damn right you haven't. This is what you call living. I poured him a cup of the house's complimentary and suspiciously murky herbal wellness tea. Just as we were about to dive deep into the cultural significance of strip mall spa treatments, the door to our private room was kicked open. Bam! Catherine stood there, dressed in a designer power suit and 4-inch stilettos, looking like she was ready to commit murder. Her perpetually frozen face was a thundercloud of pure rage. Leo Hayes. She spat my name out like it was poison. I immediately held a finger to my lips. Sure, quiet down. You're going to scare my friend. I pointed to the flat-screen TV bolted to the wall. Reruns of Duck Dynasty were playing. It's getting to the good part. Julian and I were both clutching bowls of stale complimentary pretzels, completely engrossed. Catherine's gaze fell on me, and if looks could kill, I'd have been dismembered. Then, she turned to Julian, her expression instantly melting into urgent concern. Julian, are you okay? Did he do anything to you? She reached out to pull him away. But Julian actually flinched back, pulling his feet out of the water and looking at her with wide, innocent eyes. Catherine, you're here. This is actually pretty nice. Catherine's outstretched hand froze midair. She stared at Julian in disbelief. She looked at his feet, soaking in a bright red plastic tub filled with what looked like potpourri. She looked at the bowl of pretzels in his hand. Finally, her gaze landed on the TV, where a man in head-to-toe camouflage was arguing with his brother about squirrel hunting. For the first time in her life, Catherine Davenport's worldview showed visible cracks. Julian, you like this? Her voice sounded broken. Julian nodded earnestly. Leo says this is the flavor of the real world. He also said that all art is born from life, and that I need to experience more of it. I had to bite my cheek to keep from laughing out loud. This pure-hearted, naive artist was the best wingman a guy could ask for. Catherine was trembling with fury, pointing a finger at me, unable to form a complete sentence. You, I slowly spit a pretzel fragment onto a napkin. Me what? I'm helping your husband and your old flame build a friendship. Look, we're practically brothers now. From now on, if there's anything you're too embarrassed to say to him, I can pass along the message. So are you touched? Moved? Feeling the gratitude? Catherine's face cycled through a spectacular spectrum of white, to red, to a shade of purple I'd never seen before. She spun on her heel, her stilettos hammering an angry rhythm on the linoleum floor, and slammed the door behind her. I watched her go, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. This was just the appetizer. Don't you worry, Cat. The main course is yet to come. 2. The next day, I was up bright and early. Catherine had already left for the office, leaving the massive penthouse empty except for me and the housekeeping staff. I dialed Julian's number. Buddy, you up? His voice on the other end was thick with sleep. Lau, it's so early. Early? The day is wasting. Get up. I'm taking you to experience some authentic local culture. I didn't give him a chance to refuse, just texted him the address. Half an hour later, I met Julian at the city's most popular late-night food truck rally. He stood there in a spotless white linen outfit, looking completely out of place amidst the greasy smoke, boisterous crowds, and blaring music. He was a delicate orchid dropped in a mud puddle. Leo, we're eating here. He stared at a group of burly construction workers wolfing down chili dogs, his face a mask of bewilderment. What were you expecting? A Michelin star? I threw an arm around his shoulder and pushed him down onto a plastic stool. Joe, 24 sliders and a case of PBR, pronto. I yelled, my voice easily cutting through the noise. Julian's face went even paler. Sliders, what are those? Dude fuel, I whispered conspiratorially. The nectar of the gods. Trust me. Soon, a tray of glistening, greasy sliders was slammed down in front of us. I propped my phone on a beer case and started an Instagram live. The title was simple and to the point, Piano Man Meets Sliders. Then, I tagged Catherine's public account. Here, my friend, give this a try. I promise you it's got more soul than Chopin. I handed a slider to Julian. He took it hesitantly, eyeing the melted cheese and fried onions with suspicion. With my encouragement, he took a tiny, delicate bite. A second later, his eyes lit up. Delicious. He clumsily started devouring them, completely forgetting his identity as a world-renowned artist. On the live stream, comments were flying. OMG, isn't that Julian Vance, the concert pianist? Why is he eating street meat? Who's the guy next to him? He's kind of jerk, but I'm laughing so hard, LMAO. I can't watch this. My prince, my idol shattered. Just then, a verified blue-badged account joined the stream. Catherine Davenport, CEO of Davenport Industries. Immediately, the screen was flooded with high-value virtual gifts, exploding supernovas and golden dragons. Catherine was trying to pay me to shut the stream down. I just smiled. I leaned into the camera with a brilliant grin. A huge shout-out to our top supporter, CEO Kat, for the incredible gifts. What a class act. So generous. And to show my appreciation, I've decided to... I tapped the screen. Mute our top supporter for 1 hour. With that done, I turned the camera back to Julian, who now had mustard on his chin. Buddy, say hi to our top fan. She's the one sending all the cool stuff. Julian looked up, his mouth full, and mumbled, Thanks, Kat. I could only imagine the expression on Catherine's face on the other side of that screen. She had to be on the verge of throwing her phone against the wall. The stream's popularity exploded, and it soon hit the local trending page. A well-dressed, middle-aged man who looked like a corporate bigwig stumbled upon my live. He watched for a while, clearly amused, and then posted a comment. This young man is interesting. Full of tricks. His username was Sterling Underthrow. I glanced at it and filed it away. Mr. Sterling, Catherine's biggest business rival. The fish was on the hook. I put my phone back in my pocket, ignoring the chaos in the comment section. To us, Julian, I raised my beer bottle. Julian, following my lead, raised his and clinked it against mine. The sharp clink was like the most beautiful note from a triangle in a symphony. Except this particular symphony was titled Ode to Sliders and Ruin. And Catherine was its most unwilling and most infuriated audience member. 3. The barbecue had consequences. I woke up the next morning to find my supplementary Amex had been frozen. Catherine had finally played her trump card. She thought that by cutting off my cash flow, I'd come crawling back to her like a dog. She really didn't know me at all. I saw the card decline notification on my phone, and a slow smile spread across my face. The game was getting more interesting. I rolled out of bed and went straight to the five-star hotel where Julian was staying. "Brother, I'm in desperate need of a rescue." I looked at him with an expression of profound sorrow. Julian had just woken up and was wearing a silk robe, his hair perfectly disheveled. "Now, what's wrong?" "My wife, she kicked me out. I am penniless." I managed to squeeze out a couple of tears, a performance worthy of an Oscar. Julian bought it immediately, his face filled with sympathy. "How could Catherine do that to you?" "That's horrible." He pulled out his wallet. "How much do you need?" "I have cash." I held up a hand, my voice filled with righteous indignation. "Between brothers? Money is a vulgarity. I feel like my life is over. My artistic journey has hit a dead end." I gazed at the ceiling at a 45-degree angle, channeling my inner tortured artist. I need to find new inspiration to experience life from the very bottom. Only then can I create a true masterpiece. Julian was completely taken in. "Well, how can I help?" "It's simple. Come with me on my quest for inspiration." I grabbed him and headed straight for the Rage Quit gaming lounge down the street from our penthouse. The place was thick with the smell of stale energy drinks and vape smoke, a cacophony of clicking keyboards and shouted curses. The moment we walked in, Julian covered his nose, his brow furrowed. "Leo, the air in here, it's the aroma of art." I cut him off. "Smell that? That's the smell of dreams, of anger, of youthful hormones. It's a wellspring of inspiration." I rented a high-end gaming rig for myself, and another one right next to it for him. "Come on, I'm going to teach you how to play League of Legends. This is a crucial social skill for the modern man." I walked him through setting up an account and choosing a username. After a long moment of thought, he solemnly typed in "Piano Noob." I nearly choked. Next, I ordered the gaming lounge special, a cup noodles with a shriveled hot dog floating in it. Julian stared at the greasy styrofoam cup and once again fell into a deep, existential funk. But under my threat of, "You're not my brother if you don't eat it," he finally picked up the plastic fork. And from there was no turning back. In the game, he was laughably bad, but he played with an infectious glee. He kept muttering to himself, mid lane, protect me. I died again. Leo, come save me." He completely assimilated into the environment, even getting into a heated argument with a bleach-blonde kid next to him over a stolen kill. Meanwhile, Catherine was losing her mind. She couldn't find Julian, and he wasn't answering his phone. Finally, in a moment of desperation, she remembered the location tracking app she'd insisted he install. When she saw the blinking red dot on the map, pinpointing his location at the Rage Quit gaming lounge, she was utterly baffled. It took her a full 30 minutes to accept this reality, after which she got in her car and drove over, consumed by rage. The scene that greeted her when she shoved open the door was this. Through a haze of vape smoke, her white moonlight, the ethereal prince of the piano, was red-faced and screaming along with a group of teenagers, push MID, in the game. And I was sitting right next to him, an unlit cigarette dangling from my lips, calmly directing the entire operation. "Julian, don't get baited. Go for the Baron first." Catherine felt the heels of her stilettos dig into the sticky floor. Her sanity was unraveling. She stormed over to our stations and reached for the power cord. "Hey!" A booming voice echoed through the lounge. The lounge manager, a large man holding a feather duster, glared at her. "Lady, what do you think you're doing? Looking for trouble? Unplugging someone's rig in my lounge is a bannable offense." Catherine's status as a CEO meant absolutely nothing here. She looked at the manager, then at the crowd of gamers who had turned to watch the show, and her face turned a deep shade of crimson. I'm looking for someone. I don't care who you're looking for. You unplug that cord, and I'm calling the cops." The manager shot back. Catherine was completely cornered. She could only stand there, watching helplessly as Julian journeyed further and further away from her world and deeper into the Summoner's Rift. And I was the one who had gleefully pushed him in. I turned my head and gave her a triumphant, challenging smirk. "Care for a match, Ms. Davenport?" 4. The gaming lounge incident was the final straw. Catherine was thoroughly enraged, but she had also learned her lesson. She wasn't going to confront me head-on anymore. The annual Davenport Industries Charity Gala was approaching. It was the premier event of the New York social season, and it was Catherine's home turf. Her plan was to have Julian perform, using the opportunity to restore his image as a high-art virtuoso and pull him away from my corrupting, lowbrow influence. Naturally, I did not receive an invitation. In Catherine's eyes, someone like me wasn't even qualified to breathe the same air as her guests. Unfortunately for her, she made one critical miscalculation. On the night of the gala, I showed up at the entrance of the Grand Hotel ballroom, dressed in a slightly too small, rented tuxedo that was shedding a bit. The security guard stopped me. "Sir, your invitation?" I adjusted my bow tie and pulled a business card from my pocket. "Leo Hayes. I'm Mr. Vance's artistic consultant." The card was from a 24-hour printing service. The title was self-appointed. The guard was skeptical. Just then, Julian's town car pulled up. He spotted me the moment he stepped out. "Lau, you're here." He ran towards me like I was a lifeline. He'd clearly been bored out of his mind the past few days without me. Seeing this, the guard immediately straightened up and waved me through. I gave him a self-satisfied nod and followed Julian into the dazzling ballroom. Catherine was mingling with a few titans of industry. When she saw me trailing behind Julian, her practiced smile froze on her face. She strode over, her voice a harsh whisper. "What are you doing here?" "Appreciating the arts, of course." I gazed around the room in mock wonder. "You really pulled out all the stops, Cat. This chandelier must have cost a fortune, right?" "Leo, I'm warning you. Do not cause a scene. Relax. I'm a man of culture." I gave her a little smile and made a beeline for Mr. Sterling. The CEO of Sterling Corp was holding a glass of champagne, looking thoroughly bored. I walked up and extended my hand. "Mr. Sterling, a pleasure. I'm Leo Hayes." Sterling raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by my sudden appearance. But he shook my hand nonetheless. "Leo Hayes? The name sounds familiar. You might have seen it on my wife's divorce papers," I said with a self-deprecating shrug. Sterling blinked, then let out a booming laugh. "So you're the infamous Mr. Davenport. Much more interesting than the rumors." He was intrigued. The highlight of the evening was Julian's solo piano performance. He sat at a magnificent Steinway in the center of the stage, bathed in a single spotlight, looking every bit the musical deity. Catherine stood in the wings, a triumphant smile playing on her lips. She thought that as soon as the music began, Julian would transform back into the ethereal prince that belonged to her. The opening notes of Debussy's Clair de Lune filled the hall, enchanting and serene. The entire audience was captivated, and that's when I made my move, leaping onto the stage. "Wait!" Every head in the room snapped in my direction. The color drained from Catherine's face. I snatched the microphone from the MC's hand and cleared my throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, Mr. Vance's performance is a masterpiece of high culture, elegant and moving. But art should never be lonely. To make this performance truly unforgettable, I have decided to provide my own interpretive dance. And now, please enjoy a passionate collision of the highbrow and the lowbrow." With that, I pulled out my phone and plugged it into the sound system. A moment later, a ridiculously loud, bass-heavy beat blasted through the speakers. My money don't jiggle jiggle, it folds. To the utter shock of everyone present, I began to perform the most obnoxiously popular TikTok dance of the moment. Julian's piano playing came to a screeching halt. He stared at me, his fingers frozen on the keys, his beautiful melody completely derailed. The jaws of New York's high society collectively hit the floor. Catherine stood frozen by the stage, her face ashen, looking as if she might faint from sheer social mortification. In the midst of the chaos, while gyrating wildly, I shimmied my way to the edge of the stage and leaned down toward the equally stunned Mr. Sterling. "Mr. Sterling," I said, not missing a beat, "Davenport's latest venture capital project in Southeast Asia. It reminds me of a tango. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Just be careful you don't trip." The playful smile vanished from Sterling's face, replaced by a sharp, calculating look. I gave him a quick wink and danced back to center stage, losing myself in the rhythm. Tonight, I was the star of the show, and Catherine Davenport was the punchline. With one dance, I had not only destroyed her perfectly curated evening, but had also planted a ticking time bomb right in the heart of her business empire. 5. The gala became the laughingstock of the city's elite for the next week. My TikTok dance, and I became infamous. Davenport Industries, however, wasn't laughing. The day after the gala, their stock opened with a slight dip. Then, just as I predicted, bad news broke about the Southeast Asia project. A key partner had unexpectedly pulled out, stalling the entire venture and threatening their capital flow. Catherine was in over her head. She locked herself in her office, feeling for the first time that things were spiraling out of her control. She finally realized I wasn't just acting crazy. Every one of my stunts was a precision strike, aimed directly at the thing she valued most. From her idealized old flame to her precious career, the man she had written off as a worthless parasite was systematically dismantling her world in a way she couldn't possibly comprehend. For the first time, she started to see me as a threat. She pulled some strings, hired a private investigator to dig into my past. The results, however, only made her more uneasy. My file was a complete blank. Beyond the title of Catherine Davenport's husband, the first 20-some years of my life were a ghost. It was as if I had been deliberately scrubbed from existence. It was like I had simply appeared out of thin air. The crisis at work was bad enough, but her personal life was also crumbling. Julian, far from being angry about the gala, felt that I had liberated his artistic soul. He started calling me, inviting me out to gather inspiration. We went from marathon gaming sessions at the lounge, to haggling for produce at a farmer's market in Brooklyn, to playing chess with old men in Central Park. He was having the time of his life. He even turned down a prestigious concert Catherine had arranged for him. His excuse was, "Catherine, I think Leo is right. Art needs to breathe. I'm feeling creatively drained, and I need to find inspiration in the real world." Catherine listened on the phone as Julian excitedly recounted how he had successfully haggled a bunch of scallions down from $2 to $150. For the first time, she knew what it felt like to be ignored. After hanging up, she stared out at the empty, silent penthouse and felt a strange new mix of emotions. Confusion, frustration, and a sliver of jealousy she refused to acknowledge. She was jealous of me. Jealous that I could so easily break through Julian's polite reserve. Jealous that I could make the always calm and distant Julian so animated and alive. That evening, I returned to the penthouse, humming a cheerful tune. Catherine was waiting for me on the living room couch. The ashtray on the coffee table in front of her was filled with cigarette butts. She never smoked. "Who are you?" Her voice was hoarse. I went to the fridge, grabbed a can of Coke, and took a long drink. "Your husband, Leo Hayes." "My past doesn't matter," she said, standing and walking slowly towards me. "What matters is why you're doing this. Why did you turn Julian into that? And why did you say what you did to Sterling at the gala?" I looked at her bloodshot eyes and smiled. "I told you. I'm helping you. Helping your husband and your old flame build a friendship. And, as a bonus, helping you see reality." "What reality?" "The reality that your pristine, high and mighty paradise is more fragile than you think. And that the real world you look down on is the only one that truly exists." I finished the last of my Coke and tossed the can into the recycling bin with a perfect arc. "The game is just getting started, Kat. Good night." I turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone in the vast living room. For the first time, Catherine Davenport began to deeply question her own judgment. Was this man really just a lunatic? Or had she been completely wrong about him from the very beginning? 6. From that day on, Catherine started watching me. She stopped the sarcastic remarks, and she no longer tried to control me with money or power. She became a detective in her own home, silently collecting evidence of my abnormal behavior. She noticed I was no longer the lazy, good-for-nothing husband who slept until noon. I now woke up at 7 a.m. sharp. I would sit on the balcony, drinking coffee and reading the digital edition of the Wall Street Journal. The video game magazines on my desk were replaced with stacks of scratch paper filled with complex charts and figures that looked like some kind of secret code. One afternoon, she came home from work early and heard me in my study, speaking fluent German on the phone. She held her breath and crept closer to the door. She heard me complaining proficiently in German about something. Her heart tightened. Was I coordinating with some clandestine foreign organization? Then my next sentence gave me away. Yes, extra spicy and no cilantro. Please deliver it quickly. I'm starving. Catherine. I was ordering a German pork knuckle from a delivery service. Despite the anticlimax, the cloud of suspicion in her mind only grew thicker. This man was a walking contradiction. He could lounge around in board shorts and flip-flops, debating the finer points of a viral TikTok dance with me. And in the next moment, he could pick up a newspaper and dissect global macroeconomic trends. He was full of paradoxes, and it was dangerously compelling. A huge opportunity, or rather, a crisis, soon landed on Catherine's desk. A multi-billion-dollar overseas acquisition her company had been planning for months had stalled at the final stage. The CEO of the target company was an incredibly difficult old German man. He was immune to their charms, and 3 different negotiation teams from Davenport Industries had been sent packing. Catherine had been pulling all-nighters for a week, and she was starting to look haggard. One night, she came home, exhausted, and threw a thick binder of documents, all in German, onto the coffee table. I was on the balcony with Julian, enjoying the evening breeze. Julian was playing me a new melody. He'd composed on his phone, inspired by his trip to the farmer's market. Listening to the chaotic yet vibrant tune, I glanced at the binder and commented casually. This acquisition proposal looks like a high school business project. If it were me, I'd have it closed in 3 days. My voice wasn't loud, but it hit Catherine's ears like a thunderclap. She snapped her head up and stared at me. Under the balcony lights, my profile looked nonchalant, but the confidence in my words was undeniable. Julian stopped playing, his curiosity piqued. Leo, you know about mergers and acquisitions? A little, I said with a humble wave of my hand. Helped a few friends with similar deals in the past. Small stuff, really. Catherine's heart began to race. She looked at the pile of documents that had been giving her nightmares, then back at me. A wild, unthinkable idea began to form in her mind. She had never imagined that she would one day be pinning her hopes on the man she despised most. She realized she had never truly known who her legal husband was. He was an enigma she was desperate to solve, but terrified to touch. Late that night, Catherine lay in bed, tossing and turning. From the next room, she could hear the sound of my steady breathing. For the first time, she felt that this cold, empty penthouse was a little less chilly because of my presence, and a lot more dangerous. 7. The next morning, for the first time in years, Catherine didn't go to the office. She was dressed in casual loungewear, holding a cup of coffee, and sat down on the couch opposite me. I had my feet kicked up, watching the morning news. Lao. She spoke, her voice laced with a tension she couldn't quite hide. I didn't even bother to look up. What's up? She took a deep breath, as if she had made a monumental decision, and pushed the German acquisition file towards me. You said yesterday that you could handle this deal. I'd like to hear your thoughts. It was the first time she had ever spoken to me with a tone of inquiry. I glanced at the file, then back at her. You want my consultation? All right. I put my feet down and stretched languidly. First, peel me an apple. And the peel can't break. Catherine's expression immediately darkened. Her, the billionaire CEO, peeling an apple for the man she considered human garbage? It was the ultimate humiliation. Her chest rose and fell rapidly as she fought to control her anger. I didn't rush her, just watched with an amused expression. After a full minute, she bit her lip and forced out a single word through gritted teeth. Fine. She got up, took an apple from the fridge, and found a paring knife. She had probably never done this in her life. Her movements were clumsy and awkward. Several times, the peel was about to snap, but she managed to save it at the last second. 5 minutes later, a mangled, lumpy, but technically unbroken peeled apple was presented to me. I took it, didn't even look at it, and bit off a huge chunk. The crunch was loud and clear. Then, I casually tossed the apple to Julian, who had been watching the whole spectacle with great interest. Here, you can have it. Julian caught it out of reflex, a look of complete confusion on his face. Catherine's face went completely black. Leo, are you messing with me? Nope. I wiped my hands and picked up the file, flipping through a couple of pages. Consider it an appetizer. I pointed to a specific page, my tone casual. First, your offer is insulting. It's like you're trying to get rid of a beggar. Second, your partnership proposal is all about profit with no personal touch. That old German runs a family business. He cares about legacy. You're talking numbers. He's thinking about his grandchildren. Third, and this is the fatal flaw, your lead negotiator can barely speak German, and the translator you hired is a nervous wreck. The communication is inefficient, and it shows a complete lack of respect. With every point I made, Catherine's eyes grew wider. Her team had spent days in meetings and hadn't been able to diagnose the problem so accurately. It had taken me less than 30 seconds. I finished and tossed the file back on the table. That's it. Figure it out yourself. Catherine stared at me, dumbfounded, as if seeing me for the first time. How did you know all of that? How I know isn't important, I said, getting up to find some breakfast. What's important is that my consultation is over. Catherine snapped out of her stupor and quickly called after me. Wait. She pulled a black credit card from her purse and held it out to me. There's $10 million on this. Consider it your consulting fee. As long as you can help me close this deal, you can name your price. She was trying to solve the problem with money again. She thought that with enough cash, I would go back to being the compliant husband she could control. I looked at the black card and laughed. It was a scornful, mocking laugh. I didn't take it. Ms. Davenport, have you forgotten something? You were the one who said a worthless parasite like me wouldn't see a single dime. And now you want to buy me? Too late. I leaned in close, my voice a low whisper only she could hear. This is a knowledge-based economy now. And my consulting fee, you can't afford it. With that, I walked away, leaving her standing there, clutching that cold, useless piece of plastic, completely stunned. She discovered for the first time that money, her most powerful weapon, was utterly useless against me. From that moment on, the balance of power had shifted completely. 8. Ultimately, Catherine followed my advice and restructured the entire acquisition proposal. She personally led a new team to Germany. 3 days later, the news broke. The deal, miraculously, was done. The announcement sent shockwaves through Davenport Industries. Everyone was in awe of their CEO's incredible last-minute turnaround. Only Catherine knew that the real architect of the victory was at that very moment in her penthouse, teaching her old flame how to play poker. I picked her up from the airport when she returned. I didn't bring a banner this time, just leaned against the car, waiting. She had lost some weight, but her eyes were brighter, sharper. Her expression when she saw me was complicated. There was gratitude, curiosity, and a strange hint of dependence. Thank you. It was the first time she had ever said those words to me with genuine sincerity. Don't mention it. I opened the car door for her. Just remember to pay my consulting fee. Since we're married, I'll give you a 20% discount. She froze for a second, then gave a weary smile. This man, he always knew how to shatter a moment of warmth with a single sentence. The peace didn't last long. A much larger crisis was brewing on the horizon. Mr. Sterling, the rival CEO, had somehow managed to partner with a notorious Wall Street vulture fund. Together, they launched a formal hostile takeover of Davenport Industries. On the open market, massive blocks of Davenport stock were being bought up at an alarming rate. Internally, a few key executives, obviously bought out by Sterling, began spreading rumors and creating panic. Suddenly, Davenport Industries was in a tailspin. The stock hit its circuit breaker limit down for 3 consecutive days. Catherine's father, the old patriarch who valued the company more than his own life, suffered a stress-induced heart attack and was now in the ICU. Catherine was trapped, besieged from all sides, and on the verge of collapse. In the boardroom, her uncles and cousins were pressuring her to relinquish control. Outside the office, reporters were camped out, demanding a statement. She was working around the clock, running on fumes, about to break. In her desperation, she thought of Julian. She called her White Moonlight, hoping for a word of comfort. But all Julian could offer were empty platitudes. Catherine, you have to be strong. Catherine, I know you can get through this. Catherine, maybe we could go get some sliders? My treat. The words, once a source of comfort, now sounded hollow and ironic. She had once believed Julian was her rock, a safe harbor in any storm. Now she realized that harbor was only good for a light drizzle. In a real hurricane, he was more helpless than she was. Catherine hung up the phone and slumped into her office chair, feeling a loneliness and despair she had never known. Everything she had ever built, her pride, her career, her love, felt like it was crumbling around her. She was abandoned and surrounded. Just as she was about to give up all hope, an image flashed in her mind. My face. The face of that cynical, smart-mouthed man who always seemed to know exactly what to say at the most critical moment. She remembered what I had said to Sterling at the gala. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Just be careful you don't trip. He had seen this coming. He wasn't a lunatic. He was a prophet. The one person she had despised and looked down upon the most was now the only lifeline she could think of. The thought was both absurd and crushingly ironic. She picked up her phone. Her thumb hovered over my contact, but she couldn't bring herself to press it. Beg him for help? Her pride wouldn't allow it. But if she didn't, Davenport Industries was finished. As she was being torn apart by her inner conflict, my name flashed on her screen. I was calling her. Vey, cut. My voice was as lazy and carefree as ever. Heard the company's about to go under. Got those divorce papers ready? This time, I'd better be getting a decent severance package. 9. Hearing my gloating tone, Catherine almost crushed her phone in her hand. Lau, you bastard. Yep, that's me, I admitted cheerfully. So, are you going to beg this bastard for help, or not? The other end of the line went silent. I could picture her expression, the war between her pride and her desperation. After a long pause, she squeezed out a few words through gritted teeth. I'm begging you. Saying those words seemed to drain all the strength from her body. Begging me for what? I asked, feigning ignorance. Begging you to help me. Her voice was trembling, on the verge of tears. Help you? What's in it for me? If you can save Davenport Industries, I'll do anything you want. Anything, I repeated, savoring the word. Does that include giving me foot rubs for the rest of my life? She gritted her teeth. Yes. All right, you've got a deal. I hung up. The game had reached its final, most exciting stage. I gathered my personal savings, which wasn't much, just the pocket money I'd saved up over the years as a kept husband. Then I called Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling, remember me? Leo Hayes. He was clearly surprised. Why are you calling me? To gloat. No, actually, I'm calling to partner with you. Partner with me? Aren't you on Catherine's side? Oh, no, I said, quickly distancing myself. She's about to be my ex-wife. I'm calling to help you sink the Davenport ship. Sterling was skeptical. And why should I trust you? Because I know your ace in the hole is that Wall Street shark they call the vulture. His specialty is using disinformation to create a panic, then scooping up assets for pennies on the dollar. Sterling's end of the line went quiet. I had just revealed his most closely guarded secret. I need some capital to show my good faith. I laid out my terms. When this is all over, I want 10% of the company. Sterling thought for a moment, then agreed. He probably saw me as a petty, greedy man trying to cash in before the ship went down completely. He could never have imagined that the little fish he was trying to use would end up swallowing him whole. The capital arrived in my account quickly. Using the funds advanced to me by Sterling, plus every penny I had, I opened several anonymous trading accounts. A war with no soldiers or guns, fought on the battlefield of the stock market, had officially begun. I didn't try to prop up the stock. Instead, I joined the Wall Street vultures in shorting it. This completely erased any doubts Sterling had about me. It also plunged Catherine and the other Davenport shareholders into an even deeper despair. The company's stock price fell below its initial offering price. Just when everyone, including Sterling and the vulture, thought Davenport Industries was dead in the water and it was time to collect their winnings, I made my move. Using the panic they had manufactured, I quietly bought up massive quantities of the stock at rock-bottom prices. Then, I strategically leaked confirmed, positive news about the successful German acquisition, along with several perfectly forged reports projecting massive future profits from new projects. Market sentiment flipped on a dime. Panicked retail investors who had sold short scrambled to cover their positions, and the stock price began a spectacular V-shaped recovery. The vulture and Sterling realized something was wrong and tried to dump their shares to drive the price back down, but they had already spent most of their ammunition during the initial attack, an attack I had helped them with. And with every dip they created, I just bought more. Like a patient hunter, I used my precise understanding of market psychology and my almost supernatural trading skills to set one trap after another. 3 days later, Davenport stock had not only recovered all its losses, but had soared to a new all-time high. Sterling and the Wall Street Fund were left holding the bag, trapped in their short positions, facing catastrophic losses. The crisis at Davenport Industries had been miraculously averted by a mysterious, invisible force. Sterling was apoplectic, vowing to find the man who had outsmarted him, no matter the cost. And me? After making a fortune, I quietly closed all my positions and liquidated the accounts. I closed my laptop, my work done. From the kitchen, I could hear Julian attempting to play the theme from The Godfather on the piano. He'd recently gotten into mafia movies. I stretched. I was getting hungry. It was time to go collect my consulting fee. 10. In the CEO's office of Davenport Industries, Catherine stared at the stock chart on her monitor, at the line that had plunged to the depths and then rocketed to the heavens. She was in a state of shock. She had won, in a way she couldn't possibly comprehend. She mobilized every technical and human resource at her disposal to track down the mysterious savior who had rescued her company. She had to know who had the godlike ability to go head-to-head with a Wall Street titan and win so decisively. The clues started trickling in. IP addresses, transaction logs, trading patterns. All the evidence eventually pointed to one unbelievable location. The high-end gaming PC in her own home, the one I used to play League of Legends. When the head of her IT department, hands trembling, handed her the final report, she stared at the familiar IP address and the dizzying log of transactions, and her mind went blank. The report stated, in no uncertain terms, that the mysterious market genius who had commanded billions of dollars and played the vulture like a fiddle was her husband, Leo Hayes. The man she had mocked as a worthless parasite, the man whose face she had slapped with divorce papers, the man she had cut off without a dime. The sheer absurdity and shock of it all washed over her. Her mind just stopped. It turned out the man who taught Julian to appreciate Duck Dynasty in a cheap spa really did understand the Royal Lobster experience. The man who live-streamed himself eating greasy sliders really could attract the top donors. The man who commanded digital armies in a gaming lounge really did understand strategy. The man who did a viral TikTok dance at a black tie gala really could see through complex business risks. The man who made her peel him an apple really was qualified to be a consultant she couldn't afford. He wasn't a lunatic. He was just showing her his world in a language she refused to understand. And she, time and time again, had treated him like a joke. Catherine grabbed the report and ran out of her office, ran home as fast as she could. She burst through the door of the penthouse and stormed into the study. And there, she saw a scene she would never forget for the rest of her life. The stock market god who had just saved her entire family fortune was sitting cross-legged on the floor, arguing heatedly with her white moonlight over a game of Who's the Spy? You're the spy. Your word was definitely ramen, and mine was spaghetti, I yelled, pointing an accusatory finger at Julian. It was not. My word was udon. You're the spy, Julian retorted, his face flushed. The immense absurdity of it all, combined with a tidal wave of regret, completely overwhelmed Catherine. She looked at me, the man she thought she knew, and felt like she was looking at a total stranger. She thought she had married a speck of dust. She never realized he was a diamond, just covered in a thick layer of grime. A diamond that she, personally, had thrown into the mud and stomped on, over and over again. Tears, without warning, streamed down her face. It was the first time in her adult life she had ever cried in front of another person. My argument with Julian died in our throats. We both stared at her in surprise. Hey, why are you crying? I asked, suddenly feeling awkward. Did the company go bankrupt after all? Don't worry. I'll take care of you and Julian from now on. Julian looked at her with concern. Catherine, please don't cry. Did Leo do something to you again? I'll punch him for you. Catherine didn't say a word. She just stared at me, tears flowing like a broken faucet. Finally, her voice choked with sobs, she managed to say one thing. Leo, I'm sorry. I froze. Then, a slow, knowing smile spread across my face. Oh, so she found out. 11. After discovering the truth, Catherine had a complete breakdown. But it was a different kind of breakdown. She started pursuing me relentlessly. The next morning, I walked into the garage to find a brand new Bugatti Veyron with the keys sitting on the roof. I whistled, hopped in to test the seat, then tossed the keys to Julian. "It's yours, buddy. Welcome to the Car Owners Club. Don't forget to register it." Julian. A few days later, a deed was delivered to my room. It was for a top-floor Riverview penthouse in the most expensive new development in the city, worth over $100 million. I immediately donated it to a children's literacy charity in the name of the Duck Dynasty Cultural Research Foundation. Then, she brought me the papers for a 20% stake in Davenport Industries. As she watched, I folded the billion-dollar document into a paper airplane and sailed it off the balcony. "Kat, did you forget? I'm not interested in money." Catherine looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed. "Then what do I have to do for you to forgive me?" She started trying to cook, preparing elaborate meals for me every day. I took one bite of her braised short ribs, then spit it into a napkin in front of her. "Way too much salt. It's inedible." She swallowed her pride completely, preparing a hot foot bath for me every single night, with a fresh towel laid out. I dipped my toe in, then immediately pulled it back out. "It's scalding hot. Are you trying to cook my feet?" She started telling me, "I love you, and I'm sorry," every day. I just cleaned my ear with my pinky and handed her a document. "Isn't this what you wanted me to sign before I got the hell out of your house?" It was the original divorce agreement she had thrown at me, which I had kept in perfect condition. "I'm pretty far gone now. You might have to run a little to catch up." She looked at the papers, and the tears started falling again. "Leo, please don't do this to me. Can we please start over?" I looked at this broken, begging woman, and felt nothing. "You reap what you sow. I'm no saint, and I'm definitely not a doormat. You tried to ruin my finances, so I shattered your perfect world. You wounded me with your arrogance, so I'll amuse myself with your humility. It's only fair. You want me to take you back?" I crossed my legs and looked at her. "All right, I suppose it's not impossible." Her eyes lit up instantly, like a drowning person spotting a raft. "You remember that plot of land you're so proud of? The one in the Hudson Yards redevelopment?" She nodded frantically. It was the first major project she had ever secured on her own. It meant the world to her. "I want you to build the country's biggest, most luxurious spa on that land. And you," I said, pointing at her, "will personally be my technician. You will do that until I'm satisfied." I watched the color drain from her face and smiled. "What, you can't do it?" "If you can't, then just take your divorce papers and go back to being the great CEO Catherine Davenport. A parasite like me won't hold you back from finding a new one that got away." I stood up, ready to leave. "I'll do it." Her voice, trembling but firm, came from behind me. I paused at the door but didn't turn back. "Catherine Davenport, I hope, for your sake, you don't disappoint me this time." 12. Catherine's efficiency was beyond my wildest imagination. 1 month later, on that priceless piece of real estate, a magnificent, opulent, and outrageously gaudy building rose into the sky. The sign in glittering gold leaf spelled out 3 words: Leo's Regency Spa. It was tacky, ostentatious, and utterly glorious. The grand opening was the talk of the town. Every media outlet and business mogul in the city was dying to know which mysterious billionaire had such deep pockets and such unique taste. When Catherine Davenport, CEO of Davenport Industries, personally cut the ribbon for the spa, the city collectively lost its mind. It was a story more unbelievable than her company's stock chart. As the silent owner, I was lounging in the most exclusive VIP suite, sipping tea. Julian sat at a grand piano in the corner, providing musical accompaniment. He was now the resident artist at Leo's Regency. Mr. Sterling was there too, proudly holding the very first membership card. He treated me like a long-lost father now, calling me Master Hayes and constantly scheming to poach me from Catherine. The door to the suite opened. Catherine walked in. She had traded her power suit for a custom-tailored, purple technician's uniform. The fabric was high quality, and the cut perfectly accentuated her figure. But the name tag, Technician Number 88, Catherine, was glaringly conspicuous. She carried a basin of steaming water, walked over to me, and knelt down. Her movements were still a little clumsy, but her eyes were focused and sincere. "Mr. Hayes, the water temperature is ready. Please enjoy your foot bath." Her voice was no longer cold and imperious, nor was it tinged with the desperation of the past few weeks. It was calm, steady, and filled with a quiet reverence. I placed my feet in the water. The temperature was perfect. She began to massage my feet. Her technique was unpracticed, the pressure a little off. But I didn't criticize her this time. I looked at her bowed head and her serious expression. This woman, who had once stood on a pedestal and looked down on me as if I were nothing, had truly let go of everything for me. Her pride, her career, her status. In that moment, the last bit of resentment in my heart finally dissolved. I reached out and gently tilted her chin up, making her look at me. "Technician Catherine." "Yes," she asked, looking at me nervously. "Your technique is pretty good. You've got potential." She stared at me, stunned. Then, her eyes began to well up. I smiled. "However, this establishment is still missing one thing. A lady of the house. And my marital status is also currently occupied. Are you interested in filling that position again?" The tears finally fell. But this time, they were tears of joy. She didn't speak, just nodded her head fiercely. The evening sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden glow over both of us. We had just entered into a new, and much more interesting, unequal treaty. From now on, the great CEO, Catherine Davenport, would command boardrooms and conquer markets by day. And at night, she would continue to give me foot rubs. Only this time, she was more than happy to do it. And as for me, I was more than happy to let her.